Let's see. Here we are. We are live. Hello, everybody. And,
Hello.
right now, it's just me and Charlie. Yes, Spencer says he's going to try to come in a little bit later on.
It'll be good to see him. How's
Yeah,
Spencer?
he's doing real well. He made 2 trips back to the United States, and I think it was really a game changer for him because he got back there and saw how expensive everything was, and he was glad to get back to Thailand to get back home. And I've heard this from other people that when they go back over, they're so overwhelmed by the cost of everything in the United States versus what they've been paying here in Thailand, and they end up wanting to come back.
Well, one of the things that I'm a little worried about. I mean, I hate to talk about politics, and people get so crazy about politics, but if Donald Trump wins the election, Donald Trump.
If you can't hear me, sorry.
I hear
he
you.
is. Hello,
great.
Spencer. Good to see you.
Can you hear us, Spencer? I don't think he can hear us.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Can you hear us?
He's pushing buttons.
He just dropped off. He'll be back. He'll be back.
Yeah,
But anyway, I
sure.
hear what you're saying. Go ahead.
The last Trump administration, was very proactive about keeping the value of the dollar down. Now, for those of you living in the United States, this isn't going to make much of a difference for. But when you live outside the United States, like in Thailand, a lower baht means less money for us.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, a lower dollar. I did that backwards. The lower value of the dollar means less money for us here. And what's been happening since he left office is the baht has steadily climbed, and it's up near. It's not at its historic highs. It's actually been higher. It's been in the 40s, but right now it's hovering around 36 baht per dollar, which is very good. So essentially, my American income, which is pensions and Social Security, is increased because of the foreign exchange rate, and it's given me a substantial raise over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well too.
Yeah, so
in my transfers, I can see the difference in the amount.
Yeah, and inflation isn't as bad here as apparently. I mean, it's hard for me to compare. I don't live in the States, but from what I hear, as you do, that inflation has been much more challenging in Europe and the United States. So those two combinations of less inflation here in Thailand, plus that really advantageous exchange rate, has been great. So if the administration changes, I mean, I don't know if that will happen again. I don't know if that'll happen again, but it very well might. That's what happened in the last Trump administration, is that the government was in favor of a lower dollar, and the government can affect that. I mean, not that dramatically, but they can have an impact on it. And so it's like, okay. That's all I'll say about politics. It has to do with my Forex raise. I don't want to lose my Forex raise.
That's funny. So how you doing, Spencer?
I'm doing good.
Okay.
Doing good.
Great.
Been a while.
Yeah, I know we haven't done one of these in quite a while. I think we haven't done one since the first time you came back from the States.
I left in December.
Yeah.
And then I came back in March and turned around and went back again in April. So
yeah. We were just talking about the prices of things here versus what you're seeing in the States, and being you just came back. What did you notice?
Ooh, man, it's expensive over there. I'm not lying to you. It's just outrageous. A bag of groceries, $60-$70 easy.
Yeah.
It's just the inflation over there is terrible. And people can't afford houses over there either because the inflation rate is so high that nobody's selling houses. Luckily, I was able to sell my father's house because he's on a golf course. But for the normal person, no. I mean, the inflation rate is just too high to even buy a house these days.
Well,
it's crazy.
funny. I was looking through Facebook. Sometimes I get some advertisements from realtors in the the area where I live, and the houses, the medium price houses now, $360,000.
Mm.
And that's for a little town in the south of Tennessee. I thought, good Lord. And the thing is that the people are saying people are buying them, and I don't know how they're doing it. Whether they're doing these mortgages like they do in Japan, where you pass part of the mortgage on to your kids or something after you die. But that's it's outrageous. And my sister was telling me the rent, what we used to pay, maybe $500 or $600 a month for, is now $2,400 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know how they're surviving. I really don't.
Yeah, rent's expensive over there.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. And
Yeah.
I don't think that the wages are going up to match the rate of inflation. Do you?
No, it's not. I mean, the wages are going up, but not to match inflation.
Yeah.
But then, the problem with that is you got like these McDonald's employees over there. They're wanting these large raises. And what happens is either one, the prices of the product goes up substantially, or two, they just get phased out by computers.
Yeah.
And then they're on welfare,
Yeah.
So I don't know what
I
the
was
solution
seeing
is.
somewhere that some of these restaurants, I think in the States, are using people in like the Philippines, and doing the the ordering and all that video, and there's nobody there. I just saw that the other day. I don't remember exactly what restaurant it was, but there was one of them. McDonald's owns the land; they make profits off the land. Yeah, McDonald's makes a lot of money, But yeah, they were taking the orders remote, and it was a person on a screen that you're talking to, and you walk over to the counter, and your food comes through. Unbelievable.
Where my father lives is a huge retirement area, and so there's a lot of retirees there. But the thing about it is those restaurants down there, they can't even get employees, so they do this what they call work and vacation thing or whatever, where they get these people from like Thailand or Cambodia or wherever that go over to the USA on these work visas, and they work at these McDonald's and they work at these Subways, for 6 months to a year, because they can't find Americans to do the job.
Yeah. Well, that was a big problem. And, it's kind of a problem here too, in a way, because, I've talked to, and you and I, we eat out a lot, and we know a lot of the restaurant owners, but they have a hard time getting Thai staff, that want to work. It's like the Gecko where I eat, all his staff, they're all Burmese. And, I think there may be one or two Thai people work there, but most of them are Burmese. And he says he just can't get people to work. I don't know what's wrong with this young generation. When I was that age,
I think a lot of them think they're worth more than what they actually are.
Yeah, I was out trying to get my first dollar. I wanted to pay for my first car, and have money to go out and party with, and buy clothes with on the weekends, and all that good stuff. But it seems like
so. I was at a joint a couple of days ago in Bangkok. So it was one of these not Century. What do they call it? The Central malls. It was a Central mall in Ratchapada. I don't even know how to say the name of it, but it was a Central mall, and we stopped in this little restaurant, and our food was brought over to the table by a robot.
I was talking about that.
Yeah.
One of those wheelie things. Now it was more of a I don't know, just it wasn't real automation. I mean, the thing did come over from the kitchen, but they had to have, people put it onto the robot. It wasn't it wasn't a truly automated system. It was more of a novelty than a real robot. It was kind of cute. It comes up and says, "Hello, here is your food." And they programmed it in English because I was there. I was with a Thai girl, so she could have understood Thai as well, which I always get a kick out of. They put the English on because they saw the white guy, right? But hey, Spencer, what I first noticed as soon as two things. As soon as you open your mouth and your microphone is working, is hey, you have a nice sound system. That microphone must be a good mic. You have a
It
nice
is.
you have a nice resonance to your voice. I got to talk to you later about what kind of mic you have.
All right. Yeah, sure.
And second is you got your Texas accent back.
I did. Well, I've been over there for a long time now.
That's right. Yeah, it's like okay, now you sound like Texas. That's
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Speaking of robots, though, Central Festival, the mall here,
Uh-huh.
they got a robot in the shopping, the grocery store there, the Tops grocery store. They got a they got a robot that goes around the store advertising products. And my wife and I were in there the other day, and the robot had tampons for sale. And it was driving around the store advertising tampons.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Only in Thailand.
yeah.
Crazy.
Thank you, Charlie. Though I appreciate that. I'm glad to have my accent back.
Yes. Well, I do
But
that. I'll go home.
You're also glad to be back in Thailand, though.
Yeah, I am.
I'll do that. I'll go home and visit Brooklyn and be there for just 2 weeks and come back talking like this here. It's like it just
Yeah, it don't take long.
No, it doesn't. But yeah, you sound like a cowboy.
Good.
When you were over there, what did you talked about groceries, but what about some of the other stuff that we're normally used to paying for over there and here?
I mean, restaurants are expensive over there. Like over here, like my wife and I, we eat out probably almost every day, probably 5-6 days a week. Over there's no way you could do that. There's absolutely no way. I mean, an average meal at a restaurant's going to run you $25.
Yeah,
easy. Then times two if you got you and your wife. I mean, you can find some specials, but still, there's no way you can eat out every day like you do here. Absolutely no way. Gas is still a little bit expensive over there. I think when we left, it was around $3 something a gallon where I was. And that's in the gas part of the country there, Texas. It's still kind of expensive.
Expensive for U.S., but for here it's a lot cheaper. But,
yeah. Just everything over there is expensive. I mean, even going to the movies or whatever is quite pricey. But then again, you look now, it's like the average income over there. It's about $70,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I mean, they can semi afford those things a lot more than I can on a pension. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the benefits of living here in Thailand. We're not. I think we're feeling a little bit of the inflation. When the baht goes up, we notice the food that we used to get for 30 bahts now 40 baht, which for us, that's no big deal. I mean, it doesn't really bother us. But you think about the Thai people who are making 300-400 baht a day. How are they getting by? 34K.
Yeah, they struggle kind of a bit there with that,
Yeah, they're struggling for sure, and I think I read Leck was telling me that they're raising the minimum wage to like 400 baht or something like that. But I think they're only doing it in certain provinces. I don't know.
What is that per day?
Yeah. And that could be for a 12-hour day.
Yeah, it could be for 8, 10, 12 hours.
Yeah,
whatever.
They work your ass off. I know
for the Americans out there listening, that's a little over $12 a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when Leck worked at the mall in Bangkok, and I don't know exactly what she made. She made pretty decent money, but she'd go in at 10 o'clock. Now, granted, to get there by 10 o'clock to the mall, she had to leave her apartment at 8:30, and then she would get there, and she would get off to like 10 o'clock at night. By the time she got home, it was 12 o'clock. So she, that's a long day for these people, and that's pretty much how a lot of these places work. It's just,
and that's why you see so many of these street vendors selling meals for 40 baht. Exactly. I mean, they're there for those kind of people that don't make much money. It's just we take advantage of that because we're here ourselves.
Yeah. Well, that's what like when she'd come home, on her way home, she'd stop by and she'd pick up something, some watermelon and some and spend maybe 30-40 baht and take it back up to her room and can eat. And that's mainly what they do. And I see them, on the side of the roads early in the morning. If you go up Hangdong Road early in the morning on the left-hand and right-hand side of the road, you see these people, they've got these little stalls. And basically what they're selling is what we would consider like a box lunch. And these people are stopping on their way to work and picking up, a lunch or something like that. And off they go to work, usually in the city. And apparently between 7:30 and 9:30, the traffic going into the city is just unbelievable. These motorcycles, woo, 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 it's just everybody's, trying to get to work. Oops, I just dropped it. Oh, well.
That doesn't sound good.
My spare camera. But,
call a key grip.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. But, and they do this every day. Unbelievable. I don't see how they do it, but they do manage to live on that amount of money.
And some of those people too, the younger people, they have to send some of that money home to help out their parents or whatever too, so it's not like they might not be getting all 400 baht or 300 baht a day for themselves,
Yeah. That's something that one of these days I'm gonna do a video on that and dig into it in depth. I don't think people realize, especially a lot of the guys that come over here looking for Thai women, they have no idea that when they marry the wife, they marry the whole family. Theoretically, definitely the parents. I mean, that's just the way it is.
It's funny. I'm kind of making a video about that. It should be posted tomorrow night about this time, maybe about 26 hours from now. Let's put it that way.
Have to watch that.
Yeah.
It's about what are you giving up for that relationship? Now it's not really aimed at guys like you. You guys are happily married. God bless you. That's a great thing. But it's more like guys like me. It's like, what are you giving up? And what two things alerted me to this. Number one, it's just, it kind of fits in the videos I've been making lately. And I was writing a story. I was just telling Bill before we signed on. I was writing this story about a man that I know, but I didn't know enough. And I was filling in the blanks for the storyline with, kind of little pieces of fiction. And it just occurred to me, this is like an amazing thing to me, just because of how old I am. As I'm writing, I began to realize what I was writing about was me. And then now anybody that's been a writer knows that experience or a similar kind of experience. And it was just a little bit surprising to me just because of my age. I'm 74. I mean, how many personal insights are you going to get in your life? It's like there comes a point where you think, I kind of got it all, that kind of thing. Well, no. And what had occurred to me as I was writing this is that all of the big mistakes that I have made in my life, I'm talking about decisions that I made that were not the smartest decision to do.
What would you like to take back?
No, all of them involved a relationship with a woman. It's like, and I had never connected those dots before. Just to give you a quick example, back in 1974, 5, around there, I had gotten a job with a fancy ass brokerage house called Keefe, Bruyette and Woods. It still exists. It's an investment banker. And I was bored to death with it. It's like they hired me. They said, "You're a junior analyst." And what was it, a statistician? And I was a hardworking guy, so they liked me because I spent a lot of time, and they really did like me. But I got bored with it. And this is the story that I told myself, and I eventually wound up, moving on from there after a couple of months. And I didn't understand finance at the time. I hadn't gotten. I do have a college degree, but I got that later on in my 40s. So I wasn't all that well educated. Finance wasn't the kind of thing that was as present as it is today. It is the 70s. And, I just didn't know what I was giving up there. Now, as I'm going through this process after discovering this, I realized the reason I gave that job up, I was married at the time. My wife worked for a fancy woman's boutique, and they offered me a job. And I took the job because I would have been surrounded by beautiful women. And it's true. And I look back at it now, if I had stayed in that job and studied finance and that kind of thing, I'd probably be a very wealthy man now.
Yeah.
Keefe, Bruyette and Woods is still in existence. And they're kind of they specialize in bank stocks. and they're a very successful investment banker, and so that's the major decision that I made. That was a long time ago, and I've had a good life. I made other good decisions that kind of balanced all that out. But there are a bunch of decisions like that I made in my life, and because of this writing insight that I got about myself, this self-awareness that came out of the writing that I was doing, I realized that every bonehead decision I made in my life, big ones anyway, involved abroad. And I'm not blaming the women; it's me. It's like, and that's what I'm going to finish writing the story. I'm making a video about it as well. Like I said, it'll be up tomorrow night sometime.
Nice.
And it's like the. And Bill, in a private message, he didn't say that he commented on this poster, a movie poster by Roy Bott. I love that name. You have to understand a little bit about Thailand. It's a pseudonym, and it's kind of a funny name. It means $100. But so Roy Bott posted this old movie poster of this guy hanging on to it like a beautiful Thai woman, like don't go, don't leave me, that kind of thing, and that helped inspire this whole story. I actually made a version of that poster in a real photograph. That's going to be the thumbnail. But watch what you're doing when you come over here. It's like, if you're coming over to meet women, I came to Asia for work, and then I found out there were women available. A lot of guys come here for the purpose of meeting women. And that's fine. I mean, it can be done. You can find, if you're looking for a wife, you can find one, and you might wind up like these two guys, happily married, and that's wonderful. But, you got.
I've seen a lot of them go down the tubes real quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of horror stories out there for sure in there.
Man.
Yeah. So my story is about the guy. It's about me, basically. It's like how are you allowing yourself to be influenced by all of this, and at what cost?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
the honeypot.
That's what the honeypot, exactly.
I think people, or I'm talking about other guys, look at us and think, we've just got it made over here. And sure, life is easy, but we work hard here. It's not, it's not, we didn't just jump on a plane and land in Bangkok and life was all peachy and keen. We made some plans and made some decent choices in life to make life a little bit easier. Like I said, I know people, and I know one right now that's going through hell. And
your buddy there.
Yeah, right? He's just he's in really bad shape, and he planned, but he didn't plan well enough, and he didn't think through, and now he's paying the price for it.
Mm.
And
he'd make a great video. I hope you're going to tell that story one day.
Well, I'm probably going to at some point. It's just there's so many avenues to it that I'm kind of waiting for the conclusion before I even attempt it. Because I still don't know what's going to happen. Last I heard, he may end up here, and which might be the best form. But
just a brief overview. It's a guy that he knows that made a lot of bonehead decisions around.
Unfortunately. But the thing that I stress to people is have a good plan. If you're coming over here and you want to come over here and you want to start a life over here, if you just want to do that to find a woman, well, you need to understand a lot of things before you get into that situation, because it's not as easy as it looks, and the things that go along with it, it's just unexplainable unless you've actually gone through it.
Yeah, you got to stay grounded.
Exactly.
You can't come over here with your all these dreams and fantasies, because they're going to turn out to be nightmares in the end.
Yeah,
so what you want to do is you just want to come up here, stay grounded to your principles,
right.
And push on with life. You're going to hear a lot of, "Hey, handsome man," but you should know you ain't that handsome.
Yeah. And see, a lot of guys don't realize that. And,
no.
They
throwing money left and right.
Oh, they realize it and don't care. It's just they want to be flattered. It's like flattery is a dangerous thing.
And
here's another. preview to the video. In addition to what I just talked about being a writer and getting that insight from the writing process, I was also looking at my finances, which I do monthly, and I do okay. I'm a fortunate guy. I have pretty good income with pensions and Social Security and investments and that type of thing. So I'm pretty comfortable. But I broke up with my former girlfriend. And broke up's the wrong word because we still talk, we're still friendly. But we separated, and I moved out of the house and stopped supporting her about 10 and a half months ago, almost 11 months ago. It'll be going on a year now. And just a couple of days ago, I was sitting down looking at my finances, and I have a Schwab bank account. Everybody is familiar with that. They just put this graph on top that I don't pay that much attention to, but it takes everything that you have in all your different accounts, and I have a brokerage account, a savings account, a couple of different accounts. It just puts the whole thing in a graph up top showing you how much you have now compared to a year ago. And compared to a year ago, the other day, and I don't even really look at that graph that much. Usually when I go on the website, I'm going for a transfer. I go in once a month to transfer money into Thailand from the United States. And they have cheap transfers. Schwab, anybody's setting this kind of stuff up. You need a brokerage account with Schwab, and you get a $15 wire transfer, which is it's half price of what you'll get in other banks. And and I just noticed the graph this time, and I had $15,000 more than I did a year ago. I was like, holy crap, that's a lot of money. And it's like, I'm trying to think of it, I'm looking in a moment, then I realized, it's because I don't have this Thai woman in a family that I'm supporting anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's not a cut and dry good or bad thing. I got a lot out of that relationship, and I still am fond of her and her family.
And you're on good terms with her too.
Yeah, but I'm, it's like, those, there's a good, solid, tangible example of the difference that you can have in your life. My intention was never to be her close forever, relationship or a husband or that kind of thing. She was my employee when we started out, and with COVID and all, we meshed into this relationship, and it was generally a good one. I don't want to knock it. But it was freaking expensive, obviously. I mean, if over the course of a year, and I haven't been pinching pennies. I've been traveling. I've been in the Philippines. I've been buying new clothes. I've been doing a whole lot of stuff over the last 10 months with, living on my own here in Bangkok, and dating, chasing other women, which costs money. 15 grand. Like, whoa. That's like, so that'll be in the video too. I'm even going to put a picture of the graph in. I think I got to see what other information's in there, but
that's funny.
So
you definitely you lead a extravagant life. There's no doubt.
Well, you were just talking before. Plan for it. I did plan for it. It's like I took a job when I was 32 years old that had a great pension, and it was one of the in New York City, and but that's one of the benefits of being a copper or fireman in New York City. After 20 years, you get this really nice pension. Plus, I had a 401k thing. I maxed it out. I put as much money into the 401k as was allowed, and I did I did all that. Later on, I said, I was talking about how I didn't know finance when I was a younger guy. I learned finance when I got older, and I started investing a little bit. And then by the time I was 65, Social Security kicked on top of all of this. So I have myself a nice little income. I have a nice, it's like you'd have to be a pretty wealthy guy to have the kind of solid income that I have at this point in my life. But again, it was planning. It wasn't luck. It wasn't something that just fell in my lap. I mean, I am a lucky guy too. I don't want to dismiss that. I've had a lot of good luck. That I'm still here is a big stroke of luck. But I started planning for this in my early 30s, over 40 years ago. So this is a result of 40 years of frugal planning for retirement and stay healthy. So do that and stay healthy, and then you get to come to Thailand and pretend you're a lot younger.
And hopefully everything works out.
You see a lot of these younger people too, though. They're just opposite of what you're doing. They come over here in their 20s and they're just flat broke trying to make a living. And sometimes that kind of outweighs itself. I mean, sometimes you might want to plan ahead like you did, stay over there, get a pension and all that stuff before you make the trek over here. You know, a lot of them kids just, they don't do that. And they ended up just struggling over here. And a lot of them get married and they're just, excuse me, but they're just poor.
Yeah.
You know, and they get a baby, they're even broker or whatever, you know. So,
To me, you know, to
you were
me,
wise.
I've always said if a person doesn't have enough income, solid income, and I don't care how old you are, whether you're 25, you're 30, you're 18, 19, you're 60, you're 70 or whatever. But if you don't have a solid income that's rock solid, you have no business coming to another country.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Yeah.
Thailand or whether it's any other country,
Mhm.
because there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to support yourself there. You know, I mean,
Mhm.
you know, sometimes you know you can get a contract or something in another country, but you know, if you're just going on a whim, if you don't have an income, you know, you're really looking for trouble.
You see it a lot. You know, you see these people that
Yeah.
come over here on tourist visas and they're like, oh man, I want to stay here. So they're trying
Right.
every way possible to get a long-term visa here,
Yeah,
you know,
and
to
that's
stay
getting
here for
harder
a
and
long
harder
time.
as the day goes by.
Yeah. Yeah.
These volunteer visas and these
Yeah.
student visas are going to start
Yeah.
being looked at real close, and
Mhm.
it's coming. I mean, and we can thank that for the idiots that are coming over here and making jackasses out of themselves,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
and insulting Thai people and just doing some crazy stuff. I just saw where, and I don't know if you guys saw it. The guy, it was an e-song. He went up to a gas station attendant and slapped the hell out of him. And I don't. It doesn't really say why or anything like that. He just got completely belligerent. Well, it turns out they finally caught him, and apparently he's been here for quite a few years. And you know they find him, and they're going to let him stay in the country. But you know it's stuff like this that's happening here by people who you know come here, and it makes life hard on everybody else. You know, those of us here that you know like to behave ourselves, and you know, and it seems to be more prevalent now. You know, back 10 years ago when I first came here, you never heard about stuff like that, and I don't know that it happened. You know, but it's sure as hell it's happening now. Uh, you know, how many times you look and you see, you know, like the one guy that kicked the doctor in the back down in Phuket.
Mhm.
And then there was another one in somewhere that assaulted a lady in a grocery store. Uh, you know, it's all stuff like that. It's making it hard on everybody that lives here. And I
I
don't know
saw a
where.
story not too long ago, and I don't know the exact details, but it was something like there was this young black girl from America that came over here, and she had like $175 a month to live on,
God,
and she wrote this story about how generous the Thai people were helping her out to survive here while she was on vacation. You know, and I'm like, what the heck? What kind of story is that? You know, you see people
yeah,
like that all the time that come over here with just a
bragging
little bit of
about it.
money.
You know,
Yeah, Brett wrote a story. It was in the news.
Well, let me tell you, those
I
stories,
may have seen that.
those kinds of stories can, a lot of people like them. People like to watch those stories. And it's kind of what prompted the video that I was just talking about earlier. Was kind of a reaction to that because, you know, I'm looking, I've been to the Philippines lately and I've been making some videos about expats and stuff. So I'm kind of paying attention to what's going on with the videos that my audience looks at, that kind of thing. And some of the videos that do very, very well are the stories of the dumb expat that comes here without enough money and winds up, you know, sick, broke, homeless, sitting on the street in Manila, you know, looking for money. Those are the videos that get a lot of views. That's like, you know, it's like that one guy, Paul.
Unfortunately, there's too many of those videos too.
Yeah.
The guy that I went to interview, Paul McGill, the old dog, no tricks guy.
Yeah.
Who I wound up liking, by the way. He seemed like a decent chap in person. And but one of his most famous, perhaps his most famous set of videos is about this guy. They call him Expat John. They even, you know, he's got a name. He's Expat John. And Expat John, who seems like a, you know, he's just like he's a charming dummy, you know, that kind of thing. And he came here, married a girl, had twins, and wound up completely broke. And his twins were sick. And and it was it was a horrible affair he was in. And I guess the nice part about it is McGill, along with a couple of other expats that live in Dumaguete, got together and helped the guy out, and they straightened him out, got his kids treated, and by a doctor, and got him set up and sent him back to the States, where he went back to the States in Southern California and did well. He got himself back on his feet, saved some money, came back to Dumaguete. He's married, has kids, he wanted to be back with his fellow, and now he's having another disaster all over again. And it's like, I'm not even watching it.
That story sounds so familiar.
Yeah. It's like, I'm like, really? He's going to do it again? It's like, and what happens if you do something like that twice? You're not going to get as much help the second time.
No.
But going back to it, it's like,
either.
I'm thinking, I don't want to, let me change that. And I was telling Bill, I know this guy who was a teenager when his family moved to Singapore. A Swedish guy went to Singapore, and he wound up having problems in Singapore. He got deported from Singapore, wound up here in Bangkok. And I knew him from Singapore. I was in Singapore back when he was. And he's part of the reason I came to Bangkok. I came to visit him because he set up. But he came to Thailand and totally turned himself around. And to not belabor the whole story, he is now a very successful entrepreneur, a top chef back in Sweden. He's always been a chef, but he's also a real estate entrepreneur. Let's just put it that way. And the guy's doing great. He's doing really, really good. And here's this guy's about 8 years later. He totally turned himself around the other way. So that's the story I was writing when I had this insight about myself. So I'm going to. That's not the video I'm making now, but that's the video I'm making now came out of writing that story. So that story will be a video down the road somewhere. But about Johan, I'm going to call him. I don't want to use his real name, so I'm calling him Johan. That's a nice Swedish. It's a nice Swedish name. Yeah. So I'll have the Johan story a little bit down the road too, and we'll see how that does. But I don't think they're going to like it. I think they like it better when Johan, comes here with a barrel full of money and loses it all and winds up, being broke and dumb and
has a motorcycle accident and gets out of the hospital with a broken leg.
Yeah, they love them freaking stories. What's that? And Bill, you got that buddy of yours that that's the story. You can make a move. You can make a movie out of that guy.
Yeah. It's a shame too, because he's a really, really, really good-hearted person that really means well. But it's just, he had some bad luck, and it just kept following him, and it's still following him right now. So,
he had a combination of bad luck and bad choices too. He just made some bonehead moves.
Yeah. He had bailed himself out at one point, and then he went and jumped back in the fire again, and that bit him. So like I said, I don't know what the final outcome is going to be. Hopefully, it'll be okay. But
as Spencer said, it was the honey pot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it seems both of you guys keep talking about kind of similar situations. The guy, he has bad luck. He gets out of it. He comes back and does it again.
It is the same thing. Yeah. Just about.
Yeah. I didn't hurt myself enough the first time. Let's see how it works the second time.
Well, here's the thing that I think about. If I get into a situation here, I want to be able to fix it here. I don't want to have to, run back to the States. Basically, I can. I'm so far behind the 8 ball as far as that's concerned. This is where I'm at. This is where I'm going to fix my problem if I have one. But there's so many people that just, when they get into a bad situation, they don't know, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to react, or they don't have the core support behind them to get them out of the mess that they're in.
Yeah, it just goes from bad to worse.
It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And it just.
Well, Spencer said something at the beginning of this. Spencer said something at the beginning of this live stream that is a solution to that I agree with 100%, and that's have some core values.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem. I don't know if that's the phrase you use, but that's what I heard. It's like, people come here and it's like Disneyland for grown-ups, right? And they go around and they drink and they chase women and they're having all this good time. And they kind of relinquish whatever core values they may or may not have had. And that's a principle I've lived my entire life from is know what your moral compass is and stick with it.
Yeah.
Even though you're in a brand new world here with a whole lot of different rules and customs and ways of doing things, it's if you go back to those core values of your own, it's a good compass. So
I mean, everybody
like
when they come over here, they even I was the same way. I mean, you just kind of go wild initially, but there's got to be that point where you can snap back into being grounded or your core values again, where you don't just go off the deep end like a lot of these guys do, where they come over here and they partying and drinking and they just continue that lifestyle and it gets them nowhere.
Yeah.
Some point they got to say, okay, look, boom, the honeymoon's over. Now it's time to get back to reality.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys just don't do that.
Yeah, they live in Pattaya.
Yeah, that's what a lot of them are for sure.
It's just, like I said, there's one that gets off the plane every 30 seconds.
No, yeah. I saw them walking around the airport when we were down there the other day. Two guys they were wearing shorts and no shirts to the airport.
I've seen that too. I saw some pictures.
All they had on was a backpack and some Speedos.
That was on the internet.
And it's like, what the hell?
Yeah. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think when they get off the plane, they just leave their brains on the plane.
Yeah. Put it in the barf bag.
Yeah. And I'm reading about they're getting ready to change the marijuana laws here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they'll ever do it or not.
I think they will.
I think they're seeing that they had the cart way in front of the horse, and now they're seeing that the problems that they're having because of the choices that they made, and this is the only way they can fix it. So I mean, we'll wait and see what happens. It's going to affect a lot of people because a lot of people have invested a lot of money in in selling weed, especially here in Chiang Mai. I mean, just walking down the street the other day, there's a weed shop on every corner.
Yeah, I know it.
And,
Same in Bangkok, yeah.
Yeah. What's going to happen?
I read they're going to make them get a medical dispensary license. And I just know for a fact, either it's going to go one way or the other. It's either going to be a lot of people are going to be closing down, or there's going to be some palm greasing to get that license.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. They've set it so far off that anything could happen.
I read a story that made sense. It's in one of the major newspapers, but they were saying that what had happened is the ownership, the investors in this huge business that has sprung up over the last 2 years, whatever it is, it's all over the place, as you notice. So there's millions and millions of dollars involved, and a lot of the financing came from foreigners.
Exactly.
And that's what's that's what has the Thai panties in a wad is that this gigantic industry has grown up that has other social problems that come along with it, but the lion's share of the profits aren't going to Thais. So I think that's what it made sense when I read this article. Is like, because I was like, why would they make that complete about face after this, gigantic launch? And there are people that are just bringing in tourists, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Those guys with the Speedos probably got off the plane and headed for a pot shop.
Started smoking doobies as soon as they got there.
So it is a big business, and to just completely pull the rug out from underneath it. It doesn't make sense to me. But what Spencer was just alluding to is they put some kind of licensing, structure in place. Then they can pick and choose, who gets to be part of the business and who doesn't. So, we'll see. I don't smoke pot, so I don't care. I don't have any skin in the game. It's not a.
I'll tell you something else that I think that they're finding out too is there's no regulations on what's actually being sold and what's going out to the people. And, so I think that's one of the big things that needs to be taken care of.
A friend of mine who hadn't smoked pot in like 30 years went into one of those joints and figured, let me give it a try. Right? He says he felt like he was hallucinating. He said it was like nothing he had ever experienced before, and he had smoked pot when he was younger. So I guess the quality, the power,
The strains.
It can. It's not the weed that we were smoking back in high school. So,
Heck, I seen somebody selling hash online. I was like, hash? The heck?
Phew.
It's like, how is that legal?
I don't believe it is.
Same substance, isn't it?
Yeah, same substance. I mean, they had it on Facebook as a big brick of hash for sale. I was like, wow. And it's like you're saying, though, it's the strains. They're coming out with all these unique strains, and some of them can knock you on your butt big time.
Scary. Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
And with the fentanyl and all the drugs that are coming in now,
The yaba they got here.
you got no idea what it's being cut with.
Mm-hmm.
There's no regulation on it, so who knows? I mean, it's just like the guy that you get 15 people selling food. Well, everybody wants their food to taste the best, so it sells. It's the same way with the dope. They want their dope to be the best, so
Everybody buys from them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is true. I remember you guys' last video now. I remember you guys were talking about Japan and how y'all never been to Japan before. And just as an experience, I've learned through this trip before in the past, what I used to do is I used to fly direct. I would just fly from Chiang Mai to Bangkok, Bangkok to Japan, Japan to Dallas, with no stops in between besides just the short layovers I had in those places. But I decided these trips I think we did 3 of them recently, that we would stay the night in Japan and break it up a little bit, and stay at hotels. And I know you guys were talking about, well, you never actually physically been in Japan. I hadn't either until these last few trips. And the one thing that got me is how small everything is there.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about, we stayed at 2 really, really nice hotels, and the rooms were still small. I mean, I'm closet size small. I mean, you have to turn sideways to pass each other walking in the room. That's how small it was.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's kind of, but the thing about it over there, though, you talk about something really weird is how clean that place is. You don't see a single piece of trash anywhere in Japan, or at least I didn't. So it's kind of a unique experience if you guys have never been to Japan, and the viewers that are listening too, if you get a chance, at least spend a night there, and look around a little bit. It's quite unique.
How was the expense as far as eating and hotels and all that?
Well, hotels are a little bit pricey, but the food wasn't. And the first hotel we stayed at was actually in the town outside of the airport. I think it was about $85 a night. But the airport hotel that we stayed at, one of the 2, obviously that one's about $150, $200 a night. But you get like a really tiny room. But the food is cheap. I mean, it's not bad at all. And our next trip, we're actually going to specifically go to Japan to see Japan. We're going to go into Tokyo and stuff. But if you got people that are coming over here, a good way to break up that long flight, because I mean, you're talking 23, 24 or more hours. It's killer, right? Yeah. It's just to spend the night in Japan for one night before you come over.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I did that when I went to the Philippines.
Yeah.
A little
Spend
weird,
the night
right?
in Japan or Philippines?
No, in Seoul, Korea. What happened is I had
really?
air miles on Korean Airlines, and
Okay.
I wanted to use them. But the only way I could get a free trip was to fly to Korea first and then back to the Philippines. So it turned a 3-hour trip into like a 7-hour trip. But it was free, and it was business.
That's like way out of the way.
Yeah, but it was business class, and I wanted to use the miles. And they're saying, and it's like, that's the scam with business, with air miles. It's like when you want to cash them in, they never have what you want, right? So I was like, you know what? I've never been to Korea, not outside the airport. Let me fly there and spend the night in Seoul. So that's what I did. I set it up so I could So I could do that. So and it was winter time, so I went and I visited winter. So,
It's pretty cold there in Korea, isn't it?
I was freezing. It was really cold.
Okay.
This was February. You know, it looked like a nice place. How much can you learn in, 12 hours that you're wandering around the city? But it seemed nice enough. It wasn't like you're experiencing though. Apparently, you saw enough of Japan to see that there's some interesting qualities about it that would draw you there.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like, I wasn't
Just in and
impressed
out,
with
huh?
with what I saw. Just the people are larger there. The Koreans are like, same size as us. But the other than that, I didn't see anything that stood out about the place. It was a clean city. I mean, it was, it felt safe. Looked okay. It was cold. It was freaking freezing.
Yeah. I heard
That's how
Korea can get real cold.
Yeah. So that's how I wound up in Seoul, on my way to Manila.
And when you got to Manila, was it nice and warm, or was it cool?
Oh yeah,
down
it was
there?
back to the tropics. But I knew that. I have a little one of those compressible down coats that I keep for when I go to the States. You can cram it into a little bag like this, and because when I go to New York, I go in the winter too. So I'm ready to do that.
Yeah.
When are you going back to New York, Charlie?
Probably next February, I think, because I want to get out of here during the smoke season. That's my only major complaint about living in Thailand is that 3-4 month time a year where it just gets filled with smoke and it gets really creepy. And it's one of the things that I discovered on my trip to Manila, to BGC. BGC is Bonifacio Global City. It's a little enclave of urban enclave of high-rise buildings, business and condos, and it's an upscale place. And it was very, very nice. Boring but nice, so I call it like a mini Singapore, but a lot more expensive than the rest of Manila and the Philippines. But from where I was living, it was about the same amount of money that I would be spending anywhere else if I traveled. It didn't seem terribly expensive to me. I guess it depends on what you're comparing it to. But they had plenty of Western restaurants and good food, and it was nice. It was tropical, and thankfully the weather. It was when Doi Suthep disappeared into the smoke. That kind of stuff going on here. Doi Suthep is a mountain, and there it was clear. It was not 100% crystal clear like Montana, but close. It was getting there. You could see the volcano off across the bay in Manila from the top of the condo I was staying in. At a gym on the top floor, so I could see across the bay. And I was like, oh, this is nice. So that's my plan. Instead of going to New York twice a year, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go during the smoke season, and I'll stay a little bit longer. I'm also going to go to London this trip. My next trip, I'm going to London. I'm visiting a friend in London. Then I'm going to New York, and then I'll probably come back here, pay my bills. I decided it's easier for me to spend 4 or 5 weeks away, then come back, take care of things like paying bills and getting all that stuff back up to date. Because if you go for a long time, then you have to have people do stuff for you.
Yeah.
And and that becomes annoying. So I'll go for 4 or 5 weeks, London, New York, come back here, and then I'm headed back to BGC, where they have a great yoga studio that I practice in. It's really comfortable, and stay there another 4 or 5 weeks. So I'll take that 2-month window every year and get the hell out of the smoke. So that's my plan.
Yeah, I don't think people realize it, but when we get smoke up here in Chiang Mai, Bangkok's pretty bad too.
It's you guys are worse. You guys definitely have
we're
worse
definitely
than
the
here.
worst.
Yeah, it's thicker and longer, and it comes and goes here. We have bad days, sometimes bad weeks, but then the wind blows and it all goes away. And, well, not all of it, but it gets better. And there's a peak. It's like I've been here long enough to see the cycles, right? It's funny because when the rains come, then everything clears up. And that point where
It's
at the end of
beautiful here now.
the end of the dry season, when everybody is like, oh, we can't wait for the rain. And usually the rain comes in slowly. You have a sprinkle and a rainstorm, and it's not that heavy. This year, boom, we had floods like crazy.
Yeah.
We
didn't have that up here, but we've had some decent rain. But we haven't had the torrential downpours that we're used to getting, and hopefully we'll get some within the next couple of weeks.
But the power still goes out.
Well, I know my power went out for about 2 hours today, but that's life.
It's funny. Years ago, when I first came to Thailand, to Bangkok, that must have been a problem here back in the the 70s, 80s, and 90s. That power outages were quite frequent here, so people were still talking about it. You know how they talk about problems for decades, right? It's like the guys complaining about wearing masks. They're still complaining about it. It was like 3 years ago. Get over it. It's like move on, will you please? It's like some people like to wear masks. Get over it. It's like, but so those kinds of negative stories tend to hang on, especially when you're talking about a place like a foreign place. And so when I got here to Bangkok, I was anticipating power failures. Well, I've had I think in the 8 years I've been here, I could count the number of power failures I've had on one hand. There's been very, very few, and they've been brief, like minutes.
Yeah.
And I thought when I lived in Western Massachusetts, I had way more power outages than I ever had here. So it's not an issue here at all.
Yeah.
Really? Well, that must be where they focus all their attention then, because they don't do it up here. That's for sure.
Yeah, I was telling Spencer today. I said, I've got a transformer right out almost in front of my house. It's down about a block and a half, not too far. And a guy was trimming a tree, and one of the branches hit the transformer. It knocked out the whole hang on for about 5 hours.
5 hours.
5 hours it was out.
So that's what the problem is. They don't have backups.
No,
no,
they don't.
Yeah, they don't have backups. In New York, for instance, I used to go to transformer fires all the time. They blew up constantly, right? But they go down, lights would go out, and they come right back on again because the system was set up. If one went down, they reroute it somehow.
Redundant system,
yeah. And so Bangkok, that's not an issue. It's like power failures are rare. They have been for me, and I've been here 8 years now. So it's like just not happening.
Should we move to Bangkok, Bill?
I'll stay here.
I love it here.
Generator first.
I'll struggle with the power outages.
Me too. And I've got an air-conditioned car out there. I can go sit in and start.
That's it. And I do that often.
Hey, my next door neighbor in Southampton. My next door neighbor in Southampton, Massachusetts, had his own generator.
Yeah.
It's because they had overhead lines. It was kind of the country. Actually, that was the Wild West back when the Pilgrims landed, Western Massachusetts. And there's, not the Poconos, what it is, the Berkshire Hills. And, it could be country, it's kind of countryside. It was, and they had overhead power lines. So they'd have an ice storm and the power lines would all come down, and that one was like a 24-hour outage. I had a fireplace, so, I could keep the freezing it.
We had the blizzard of 93. I was out of power and everything for like 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
Snow, golly, I've never seen so much snow in my life.
Well, I did see something the other day that said about Bangkok. They said that they're starting to bury the power lines now in Bangkok. So if they do that and they continue doing that, that should be helpful a lot, because it'll prevent a lot of those power outages, because all the lines are underground.
Well, what they're burying, they're actually not burying the power lines. They're burying they're burying the telecommunications lines.
That's what they're doing up here too.
From what I could see,
what a damn mess.
The big overheads that they have. Now, maybe they are putting them underground elsewhere, but the construction that I've seen, again, I'm just familiar with that stuff from my fireman days. We knew the stuff that you didn't touch. That's usually the stuff that's way up on top. Yeah, and you could see the big ceramic insulators that are holding the wires up, right? And so I don't see them going underground. They're remaining. It's that web, that spider web of wires that you see here that Bangkok is famous for. It's like you look at that like, who knows what any of them are. I'm sure half of them are dead by now, but it's just this web of wires that they climb on and they run new ones. Right. And that's usually for new internet connections. It's like it's the internet and telecommunications, and that's very low voltage stuff. And that's what's going underground.
Well, at least you'll have internet if power goes out.
That's right. Yeah.
Who knows? I'll tell you what, they have made such a mess up there in the city with the underground cables and stuff. It's
right there in front of the U.S. consulate that they're building. What a mess!
Oh, yeah, up on the superhighway.
Yes, sir.
Is that what you're talking about? That's crazy. Yep. I went by there.
They blocked out that whole road just for the consulate.
Yeah, I know. As a matter of fact, just when I came up to see you.
You know, I swear that console is going to be one of the greatest wonders in the world. It's what they call a mega structure.
Yeah. For what?
So dang big.
For what they do for the expats here in Chiang Mai.
They deserve it, right?
They could work out of a 4-story shop house and rent out the first 2 floors. They don't need that big.
Yeah.
Just, it kind of aggravates me because it looks like every time we turn around, there's something else that they're not doing for us.
Yeah.
They say that they can't do or whatever, but and to spend all that money on that place, and they can't even make a passport there anymore. They don't do passports. You have to send your passport out.
I got to get some stuff notarized next week. I'm hoping that they'll notarize it, but I saw on their website they pick and choose what things they notarize. So I hope whatever I'm getting notarized is okay.
I'll tell you what.
I had actually one of my trips up to Chiang Mai was to get a notary. I needed a notary, and the only place you can get it that I know of is an American notaries in the embassies. When I went online here, I couldn't get it. You need an appointment, by the way. Make sure you get an appointment for when you want to go.
Yeah.
And they didn't have any appointments here for weeks. I was like, holy crap. It's like I needed it more quickly than that. And I was able to get an appointment right away up in Chiang Mai. So that was one of my trips. I took Blue and the family up there. It was a nice trip, actually. But that was the old embassy. They hadn't really started construction yet on the new one, which I'm just presuming is like, a coven of spies of some sort. They're building this big, expensive fortress up there. And like Bill said, they do? They're stamping passports once in a while, and they don't even do a great job of that. There must be something else going on there.
Wait till you see how big this place is. You'll be amazed.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, Thailand has always since the end of World War II, has been a hive of clandestine activity for the United States. So I'm sure that still exists. They don't talk much.
I know for a fact it does.
Yeah, they don't talk much about that, but yeah, there's loads of spies here. I mean, as a matter of fact, every provincial airport was at one time, some kind of air base.
Yeah, technically, Chiang Mai Airport's still attached to the Air Force Base here. So
yeah, it is.
That's right. But it's one of the things I learned when I was going up to Loei province with Buka, my old girlfriend. She's from there, and they were not part of the infrastructure improvements that were going on in Thailand up until past the 80s, and that's because they were loaded with commies. And there's a history to everything. It's like the Laotian communists were using that province as a base. And if you look at a map, like an old military map, you'll see that all the other provinces around it had American air bases on them. And Loei never did. Now it does have its own airport now, but it's one of the few airports that was not at one time an American air base. And it's one of the reasons it was kind of a neglected province is because it was, as a matter of fact, the current king, the Ramaten guy, he was a military officer that was involved in getting rid of the communist insurgents. I think in the 80s that happened. I forget the exact date, but he was part of that action that finally got rid of the communists that were in Loei province. Like everything has a story, right?
That sounds like a video.
I think I might have made one of it.
Well, back during the Vietnam War, most of the Agent Orange was stored right here in Thailand, and they.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they take it they fly out of Thailand and go over into Vietnam and drop the Agent Orange.
Yeah, I got two friends that have Agent Orange that were stationed in Thailand, got it here. So
Yeah, there's a guy that I know back in the States. His uncle, matter of fact, he called me and wanted to know if we could ever find out, who. If there was any list of soldiers that were in the bases, because his uncle had come down with cancer, and he was stationed at a base here in Thailand. It turns out that it ended up where they ended up giving him his veterans benefits. But yeah.
So Bill, Bill, you're reminding me of like a Charlton Heston movie. You have whatever lighting you have is like color by Technicolor, right? It's reminding me of those old 1960s movies of
I got
Technicolor.
a light over there and one over there.
It's awful black behind him, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I turned the light off, you know.
Very
Yeah.
right? Cinematographics. Yeah.
I can't even show you behind me, can I? Oh, no. But anyway. Well, guys, we've been on an hour. Anybody got any questions? Hello, Dan. How you doing? Anybody got any questions before we go? We'll be happy to answer any questions anybody's got. I'm just going to say, you know, for the last probably 3 months, I wouldn't have advised anybody to have come to Chiang Mai. Now the weather's great. You know, the air's nice. It's nice and cool. You know, if you're ever thinking about coming, now's the time to come.
Mhm,
My health's doing good. I'm in good shape. I'm not dealing. The issues that I'm having now, Chris, are more dealing with the side effects of the immune therapy that they gave me after I had the operation. That's what I'm dealing with right now, and they're not. You know, it's nothing drastic. It's just a pain in the ass, and hopefully they're all going to go away. I'm just kind of waiting. Seems like every time something goes away, something else will come. But eventually, that shit will all get out of my system. I hope. But my last scan, I had a CAT scan 2 weeks ago, and I'm clear. I have no cancer in my body that they could find, so I'm in pretty good shape, and I feel good. You know, I rode my bike 35 kilometers this morning, and you know, the day. What I do now, this is my exercise routine now. I walk one day, I rest the next day, and then I ride my bike. And then I'll rest another day, and then I'll walk. And I usually walk somewhere between 6 to 8 kilometers, you know, when I do the walk. And the bike ride's about 35 to 40 kilometers, you know. And it doesn't really wear me out. I really enjoy it. And I've started taking different routes and, you know, trying to see different things. Like today, I went, and I don't know if you've ever gone up this way, Spencer, but if you go up Hangdong Road, before you get to Samong Road, there's a traffic light, and you go left, and it takes you back up over to 121. I got back over there and saw a temple that I'd never seen before. It was really, really beautiful. And I'll probably go back there the next couple of weeks or so and make a video.
I think that's where I used to live.
Well,
Back there.
actually, I think you lived on the west side of Canal Road, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. This is on the east side.
the east,
But it's
where all
right
the
in that-
shops are and stuff along there.
Yeah, there's a lot of shops. There's a lot of businesses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a temple built back in there. And like I said, I've never seen it before. I just rode my bike through there. It's beautiful. And yeah, it's really set up real nice. So I'll probably go back there and make a video. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get out and see different stuff. And you know, I'll bring a couple of bottles of water with me, and I'll stop and have water, and then keep riding. But my strength's back. I don't have any problems there. I did have a little bit of a balance problem for a little while, and that seems to have faded away. My goal is, Charlie, in September I'm coming down. I'm gonna try to make it probably about the end of September to come down to Bangkok and eat my chicken wings at Hooters and watch all the punters come out of Nana Plaza. That's kind of my.
Well, if your hapless buddy ever winds up in the leper colony the way you thought he would, let me know. We'll come up and we'll go visit him.
Yeah. I haven't heard anything yet, but I venture to say that's probably what's going to happen.
It's not a real leper colony, listeners. It's a hospital that used to be a leper.
Yeah. It used to be a leper colony. Hey, they have. You haven't seen it, but they have really fixed up the area along the river. Remember when we walked back by that tree? They built a great big walkway all along the river now that goes from Samong Road almost up to Second Ring Road, and that's
a beautiful place.
Nice
I took some nice photographs there.
Yeah, it's really nice. But anyway, nobody's got any questions, so I think I'm going to go out and harass my wife. She's going to watch football tonight. And probably go get something to eat. But anyway, appreciate y'all stopping in. Charlie, appreciate it. And
Go get your $15,000 worth.
Yeah. Take care, everybody. Thanks for stopping
right.
in.
See ya.
Okay.